Thank you.
This is crazy. I feel like I'm looking at Mount Rushmore or something. So, you know, the vast majority of the Q&As that I do are for films that have not yet come out. And so it's a rare pleasure for me to be able to talk about a movie that has already had a life of its own, you know, let alone one that I think it's safe to say has sort of already been branded as a modern American classic, and has had such a seismic impact on the culture. So with that in mind, I really just wanted to start by asking all you guys, anyone who wanted to speak to it, what, you know, sort of about the response to the film, if the reaction to it has taught you anything that you didn't know already about the movie, if it has compelled you to look at certain aspects of it in a different light.
That's a good question. I suppose for me, from my point of view, there's this kind of like a few days before we have to release a movie out to the world, and there's a defense mechanism that kicks in, and you have to assume that everyone's going to hate it. And that gives you the courage to say, well, I don't care, you know, and you're just you're a bundle of nerves. You have no idea what's coming. You feel confident in what we've done. We were all quite confident. We felt proud of what we've done. But I told you before, I think the magical thing for all of us is that we were all together. We're missing Sean, but we were all together as people were discovering the film for the first time. We were touring around. So we got to really feel the energy of audiences, to see what people were writing about the film. And it was like achieving a kind of liftoff and a kind of magical feeling that you felt this incredible warmth coming from audiences for the film. I think for all of us, we got to really see it through Chase's eyes as well, because she'd never done this before. And I think we were just sort of proud to be a part of it with her. And we also had to let her know it's not always like this. But that's a kind of long-winded way to say it's been absolutely amazing. As simple as I can put it.
And, you know, for Benicio down there, a few small beers has become part of the vernacular now. It's sort of like 6-7 for adults. Did you feel like you were making history when you were standing on the side of the road that day?
Not at all. No, not at all. The only thing I can say about watching the film is that I took my daughter and a couple of her friends to see the movie. I was kind of going like, well, are they gonna like? And I had to tell Paul and also thank Leo, because I think it was a perfect father and daughter date movie. I mean, at some point she was just going like, are you gonna die? And then it was, is Leo gonna die? Is Leo gonna die? But it was a real experience, to see it like that, So that's one thing I kind of like never thought the movie would be that father-daughter. She's 14, so maybe it's a little bit ahead of what it was supposed to be, or what she should be watching, but she enjoyed it, and I'm glad she did.
So, Paul, I'd say that the last few movies you made have been more legibly personal than some of the films you're making earlier in your career, to at least to an outside viewer. Phantom Thread, you've talked about how, to a degree anyway, it was inspired by your marriage, and Licorice Pizza, obviously, going back to your childhood. Is this film consciously autobiographical for you, to some degree?
Well, I do have 4 children, and I suppose when I started writing it, I didn't have any kids, and so slowly but surely, over the years, it's impossible to ignore that the pull of the story is in the relationship between Bob and Willa. That is what spoke to me the most. That's what I understood the most. I'm not shy about writing anything that's personal in my life. It's the well that I have to go to. And I suppose I just doubled down. It was impossible not to look at Chase and see my own children, and the feeling about how I feel about them, what I would do for them, et cetera, et cetera.
And then we get to Leo and all. I mean, you said the 20 years that you spent tinkering with this idea. Obviously, something happens 5 or 6 years ago. Did things begin to click into place when you thought of Leo for the movie, or was it that thinking of Leo for the movie sort of like when you were thinking, oh, I have this what was like the hip neck type of character? You thought you're like, oh, I know who's perfect for that.
It is true that I suppose to what I was saying before too is that maybe I aged into making the movie, maybe Leo aged into playing the part, so that as these things kind of you're pushing a ball down the road, you're writing, and you're not quite sure where it will be, but my friendship and my professional admiration for Leo kind of landed a few years ago at like this feeling like this was an opportunity to take advantage of. Here he was at this point in his career, here I am, and the thought of doing it with him certainly energized me, as it would anybody. It was like, right, this could be, if Leo is the anchor, the main person that I go into battle with, then this could be very exciting.
Leo, you said that for the lemon scene in The Wolf of Wall Street, you were inspired by a YouTube video called The Drunkest Man in the World. And I'm curious what you turned to for inspiration or used as a resource for thinking of the drugs and alcohol lover of Bob Ferguson. Was he based on any real characters or people that you knew?
Certainly a lot of characters in my childhood. I grew up in this sort of counterculture hippie community in LA, and of course I tried to emulate the dude in my own little way the best I could. I mean, he is my father's sort of godlike figure, spirit animal, yeah. I watched, Al Pacino and Dog Day Afternoon a lot. We discussed this character at great length, but I think it was only until, Paul has this sort of relentless scouting for like a year before for these locations. That's why all these locations that you see up on screen are so sort of jarring and unique, because he goes into the culture of these places. And once I went to Northern California, like you said, I realized what this hitnik sort of guy was. This guy that wanted, it's a lot of where these revolutionaries that came from the Weather Underground sort of went to and hid away, and then they sort of disassociated themselves from the rest of society, and they kind of veered right a little bit. So it was somewhere a hybrid in between, a revolutionary and a really right-wing guy that wants you to get off his property. That sort of came to fruition when I went to Northern California, Eureka with Paul.
Yeah. And Teyana, as anyone who had seen 1001 would have guessed, you're incredible in this movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, you should. I know that even before getting this role, you were inspired by Assata Shakur, who was a member of the Black Liberation Army who was convicted of killing a New Jersey state trooper and escaped prison to Cuba and died actually the day before this film came out, which has an interesting poetic resonance in terms of the cyclicality of revolution in the film. But I'm curious about the influence of the sort of Black revolutionaries on your performance in this movie and how you drew from that history to figure out who Perfidia in Beverly Hills would be.
Honestly, it was a little bit of everything. It was loosely, inspired by just different things that I was around. Most importantly for me, how complex Perfidia was, and my favorite thing, Paul spreading light on postpartum depression. That was very, very important for me, as I know what that feel like, so I wanted to take the personal parts of myself and put it into someone that I'd never met before, but no parts of her, so it was about, creating these layers and color coordinating those layers and giving this complicated performance, and taking myself out of it, but elements of myself that I've experienced and poured it into Perfidia. So it was bigger than just one person or one thing. This is a very, very flawed character, also very, very human, and I think it was dope because it's like, not saying it literally, but if you really think about it, like Perfidia is a woman who was 100% herself, unapologetically, and like put herself first, which I feel like as Black women, we never get to do that. We never get to take our capes off. We never get to just have a moment of weakness without, or it's like we're too confident, we gotta, cool it back. We too loud, we gotta shut it up. We stand tall, we gotta sit down. You know what I'm saying? And we are the least protected. So I think that it was important to, granted, the decision she made in the movie is a little crazy, but if you think about it in hindsight, but if you think about it in hindsight, this woman is standing up for herself and she don't care, fuck you ain't that man. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, but sometimes it be like that. You know what I'm saying? Not with me personally, but sometimes I need a nap. Fuck them kids. I need a nap. But and that's what I'm saying. It's not even like literally, but some of the things that she's doing is just like I feel like we wish we had the opportunity to do. It was really dope to see her not want to be a superhero all day, every day. And again, the most important part is she is the anchor, for the movie. Without her anchoring herself, how is Willa able to rise? How's the next generation able to go? How are we able to hunt them down, 16 years later, so.
And Chase, I promise you that I racked my brain trying to think of a more interesting question than how fucking insane was it that this was your first movie, but I just couldn't get there. How insane was it? This was your first movie, and did the long audition process help sort of acclimate you to that insanity and make you feel more grounded in doing it?
I mean, I think that the fact that the audition process was 6 months got me able to really understand Willa and Willa's relationship with Bob, and also understand how Paul works, and get to work with Regina and figure out kind of the dynamic between Willa and Deandra and Willa and Bob. But I think that also kind of prepared me for the wild ride that I was about to be on for the next 6 months after that. And I still can't fully wrap my head around what we created, but I love it so much, and just getting to do this with everybody is so heartwarming. So.
And were you, I'm not sure in the order in which things were shot, but did you have an opportunity to sort of watch what Teyana had done and to sort of pull elements from her character and interpolate them into who Willa would be?
I didn't see anything. I actually didn't meet Teyana until about the end, honestly. So everything that I was hearing about, or I guess my perception of her was just through what Paul had been telling me, or through what Leo had been telling me, or what Regina had been telling me. So it was, I really leaned into the longing of wanting to meet Teyana, and I think that really helped with Willa longing to meet her mother in a sense, and kind of wondering about who she is and why she is the way that she is. And then getting to see Teyana's performance in the film, it was like, wow, Willa and Perfidia are actually so similar, which was really cool to see.
They told you I was a rat. But damn, what y'all saying about me? The bitch is a rat, like you on a stool, hey.
And Regina, I'm getting the sense that Paul must have been a huge fan of Support the Girls, as we all should be, but great to see you in this. And your performance is so incredible because so much of it is just written on your face, so much of it is rooted in reaction and sort of anchoring us as an audience and sort of like grounding us in the reality of this story. What was it like for you, and how did you and the rest of your cast and director sort of work to figure out how to convey so much feeling and history and information across your face in those scenes?
Well, thank you. He would ball his fist right before action. That's a joke. Paul and I talked about it a long time, and I was a big PTA fan, and you watch how he shoots a lot. And I think just him talking about, he would talk a lot about what everyone was going through. We talked a lot about who Deandra was to the story, and who Willa was very much for the story. And she is, she's the reason that I think everything in the film is happening. We all love Willa, don't we, Perfidia? And there is a scene where Perfidia does love, she is like, watch out for, her baby, Charlene. So I think just leading into Paul's talking about it. Paul is so adept at expressing what he needs. A lot of times the director wants certain things, but they can't express it to an actor. But he is an actor's director, I would say, right, Paul? Yeah. He really is. And so when you have he doesn't say a lot, but just the subtle things lets you know what you would be feeling. And then I think just the way Paul shoots, he just knows how to capture that, and it's a very it's very subtle, but it's really Paul, I should say.
I mean, listening to your answer, I was just thinking about how all of the actors here, your characters fall into such different places on the spectrum of heightened versus grounded, and you all have to be in service to the same movie. How do you guys maintain that tone? Is it just a matter of trusting in the integrity of your character and sort of digging into that? Because it's just so many different energies that you're trying to synthesize in this one cohesive thing.
I'll answer that in the sense that, that the atmosphere that Paul creates on set is a very unique one. And it's only been since I've been talking about the movie at such a great length the past few months that I've realized that, of course, this film was made it feels like a homemade film for the cinematic experience. It's for the communal experience of seeing it in the theater, but the way he makes his productions, the way that we're isolated on set, and he minimizes the amount of people around you, that you're able to be involved in watching the dailies with a communal group of people to sort of react and hear the score from Johnny Greenwood while he's playing the dailies, so you can sort of make these minute sort of adjustments to your character and see how other people feel seeing the celluloid in front of you. That whole interaction and his ability to sort of pivot for a great idea is quite remarkable. Benicio came in from doing the Phoenician scheme. We sort of shut down production for 2 months, and he had very specific ideas of who Sensei Carlos was. And Paul sort of, said, fuck it, let's go on a road trip. Let's sort of scrap what we had, and we made up sets on the spot. We involved ourselves with the local communities. We got to work with people that had real vocations, those real jobs, and we kind of made our own little side film. And it's that ability, that malleability in Paul when he hears that one good idea to pivot and adjust. And so I think that we felt a part of, and we still feel like the Bad News Bears. We feel like a team, you know what I mean? And he creates this camaraderie with the actors where we feel like we're benefiting off one another, and we're willing to come up with ideas and change things on the spot. And,
just to add to that, there was a lot of laughing. I mean, we were laughing a lot, off and in front of the camera, so it was very, very positive, very optimistic, even though we're dealing with some dark feelings and all that stuff, but it was really a lot of fun. And I think that laughter, helps you loosen up and relax and trust. And so that's a thing that Paul brings in that really is a plus.
Sort of like speaking to the malleability that you were talking about, Leo, I mean, everything, the amazing thing about that is you watch the movie and everything feels completely in place and so intricately designed. How did you, working with the good people of Warner Brothers, many of whom are here with us tonight, at a scale larger than anything else that you've made before, how did you maintain that fluidity and allow yourself the freedom to sort of zig and zag, deviate from the plan?
Well, one of the main ways that you do that is that you have the greatest assistant director in the history of the world, named Adam Sumner, who's no longer with us. Adam and I have worked together almost 20 years, and the relationship that you have with an assistant director, he's also the producer as well, is it can't be understated at all. So an awareness of the schedule that needs to be made, where things are
in place and how we can do them very quickly, and where things are maybe a little bit looser, and he just can read my mind, and we can communicate in a way where he said, and give you a little extra room here, because I can feel that it's not quite right. And that relationship is intrinsic to being able to pull off what we pulled off. The other thing is that, to Leo's point, is that I don't know, it doesn't matter how much money you have to make a movie, it should still be the 10 people at the camera and the actors that are in the scene. Everybody else, with all due respect, fuck off. You know, you have to kind of narrow it down. It has to be intimate. They can do their best work when it's intimate. I can do my best work when it's intimate. You know, you need machinery and trucks and all this kind of stuff, but it has to kind of narrow down and be agile. You know, I mean, we all started out, you know, not just in independent films. I think we all probably started out making movies with our friends with a camcorder or whatever it was. Like, you can't ever get too far away from that, no matter where you are. And hopefully we did, because it's, believe me, no matter how much money you have, it's still the same thing as when you were making a movie with your friends in the backyard. I mean, believe me, it's exactly the same. You still look, you kind of think like, you'll make it to Hollywood one day, you'll have a really good budget. Like, I'm telling you, there's still like a guy on a ladder dropping something on somebody's head. And you think like, this is it, we made it to Hollywood, it's still exactly the same.
Unless you shoot your next movie in the volume or something like that.
No, exactly.
We all think of it.
You know, like we go, you know, like Bob and Will's house, you know. I mean, I don't know, that could have been more than 10 square feet, that house. You know, there's not enough room for anybody. But it creates an intimacy, and, you know, you get a lot of sad and angry faces outside in the rain while we're inside shooting, but, you know, everybody's up for it.
You guys didn't even close down that supermarket, is that right? Where you shot it?
Yeah, that's right. That's another thing you can do. Like, we went to a supermarket in Stockton, California, or Sacramento actually, and we took Sean and Leo, and we just started shooting. And I think everybody was kind of excited at first. They were taking a lot of pictures of Leo, but then when they were there for an hour, they stopped, and they were like, oh, you know, we were going to be there longer than they were there for their shopping, so. But that kind of thing can give an immediacy to a scene. It's going to sound different. It's going to feel different. There's a different energy in the background and the movement. And, you know, working with somebody like Adam too, you can have a contingency. You go, look, if we get there and this is a disaster, in the afternoon we can go into a corner of the supermarket and do this as a more traditional scene. But the answer to your question is being blessed enough to work with people as brilliant as Adam.
But scaling up to these sort of large scale, these car chases and these larger action sequences, were there days on set when you felt like you were working a new muscle that you had never worked before, rather than simply scaling up, you know, the kinds of filmmaking you've been doing since you were 8?
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, the closest I'd come to a car chase in Linker's Pizza, we had a truck going backwards down the hill in the valley, and that was fun to do. This was obviously on another level. I suppose it just, yeah, I got to feel like, you know, boys with toys. I was doing a car chase. It's very exciting, you know, it's thrilling. But it's funny how everything, like I said, everything always narrows down to like, you're just trying to get a shot that you need to get, you know, and have a good time doing it.
And Teyana, you spoke so well about, you know, Perfidia and her postpartum depression and things like that. I would love, because talking about the response to the movie, there's been a lot of chatter, inevitably, about the relationship between Perfidia and Lockjaw, the nature of that power dynamic. I'd be really curious just to hear you talk a little bit about how you saw that, how you and Sean were able to sort of find a rhythm or an energy or dynamic there that made sense to you, because it's a really complicated thing.
It's a really complicated thing, but they were both toxic, and they were both power hungry, and I think they both got greedy, and it backfired, you know, which also plays a big part in her postpartum depression. You know, who is the father? You know what I'm saying? And if this is a reflection of what happened with Lockjaw, you know, it's so many things that can be going through Perfidia's head, and why she's so jaded, or why, you know, she can't stand him, and it's just kind of like, you know, understanding what it was going to be the moment I had that gun to his head and he called me sweet thing. It's just like, I feel like when you first see the movie, is a lot to process, but then like, I respect people who went to see it 2 and 3 times because like you catch different little nuggets and Easter eggs every time you watch, and it's just kind of like, okay, cool. So I am being fetishized, I am being over-sexualized, I am being all of the things. However, she enjoyed it too, but she enjoyed the power of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I have this man in power doing whatever I say. You can get it up. Just from me having a gun in your head, what else can you do and how far can I take this? So I think, from the very beginning it was a pissing contest, and they were both clear on that. But he was whooped, he was whooped. And she was still playing the game. So it's like he come in with the flowers thinking it's about to be all peaches and cream, and she got the fuck up out of there. You know what I mean? Like, this pussy don't pop for you. You know what I'm saying? We gotta go.
Just to sort of wrap up, I mean, it sounds like everyone had a pretty eventful time making this movie. I'd love to hear just people talk about any particular memories they had. I'd also love to hear, on a similar note, Leo, just because you've worked with so many of the great filmmakers of our era, if there was something about your experience with Paul that was sort of categorically unique and different than what a Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese brings to the table. Please.
Well, I will say that he's got one of the best bullshit detectors of any director out there. I mean, he listens to a cacophony of a multitude of different ideas coming from the actors, and a lot of times it's, I can't believe you said that, or no, oh. But then that one great idea, he'll laser focus on it, he'll expand into it, and dive in fully. And there were a lot of these little tidbits that all of us sort of threw out, and they changed the course of the entire narrative. And he's just got a great detector for good ideas.
And anyone else with anything that they remember from the set they wanted to shout out?
Well, I remember because I remember when I had ran for like 3 hours, and then he wanted to do more running, and then he wanted not even using the seat. You see this right here? We had to run out of the bar. We shot the whole shit. We had to like run outside the bar. So I'm like jumping over. You couldn't tell me I wasn't Tom Cruise. I'm jumping over. I got a gun in my hand. I was running faster than all the guys. I was running faster than all the guys. I was really doing my thing. And then one day we came in, and he was like, yeah, so I have a different vision. But the crazy part about it is, it was genius. It was genius, and it was that was a different level of trust. I'm a warrior. I'm a PTA warrior regardless, so I'm gonna do whatever it is that he needed to do. But honestly, to see how his mind worked, and to know the time that it takes to completely scrap something because you see something, you follow your heart and you go and you do that, he did that. And the newest way that we did it really was just like iconic. So I just want to give Chef P.T. Anderson his flowers, because he cooked. Let him cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, let him cook. So give it up for Chef P.T. Anderson. My guy plays ball. He plays ball.
Well, thank you.
So modest.
I actually, I started to drift off a little bit when you were asking that, and I was thinking about a memory from the film to share, and the one that popped into my mind was in the first couple of weeks, we shot at Eureka High School. We shot the scene in the bathroom when Regina comes to see Chase, and I remember feeling very, 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 very excited about the possibilities for our story, because I saw it in Chase's face, I saw it in Regina's comfort, but her awareness of the danger, the way that the scene was playing out, and I felt invigorated to now face down the next 90 days that we would be shooting, because it's one thing to work with Leo, it's one thing, Teyana, obviously everybody, Benicio, but to put all of our eggs in the story, to our hero, which is Willa, an unknown, that really needed to work for the entire story to work. Everybody else's work would be for nothing if it wasn't for our golden child. And when we did that scene, I remember feeling extremely excited about the possibilities that we had ahead of us, and that if we could keep focused, we could really have a terrific story to tell.
I feel like did find a way to keep focused. You guys have made a really incredible movie. We're all so lucky that you could be here to talk about it with us tonight. One battle after another.